Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Vice President JD Vance said that the marathon negotiations with Iran and Islamabad, Pakistan, ended without reaching a deal. And Donald Trump, your president, is PO'd. Yeah, man, he mad. Boy, that boy mad. I don't understand why he's so mad because, from my understanding, he was out on at a UFC fight. I was about to say out on the golf course, but that would have been a lucky guess. Good guess. No, I actually wouldn't have been luck because about half the time that's what he's doing, playing golf, no matter what's going on. Whole world could be blowing up. He's out on the golf course. But in any event, he was at enjoying a UFC fight while one of the biggest negotiations of his administration was taking place. His vice president wasn't actually all that safe. Anytime you travel like into enemy territory or you have to cross enemy lines to get to where you're going, you can find yourself in a jam. Kind of like, if you were like, let's say in gang territory, if you were living in gang territory and you had to get from one side of the street to the other, but you got to cross into gang territory to get to where you're going. It's like, you could find yourself in a major jam. Now, here's the deal. Iran said that we ain't giving up nothing. The United States wants Iran to guarantee them that they will not pursue nuclear weapons. They will not pursue nuclear weapons. And Iran said, don't hold your breath, basically, because they will not guarantee, they don't want to guarantee that they're not going to pursue any type of nuclear program. They would not, they wouldn't agree that they would not develop or seek the tools for a nuclear weapon. And here's the deal, fam. Imagine your enemy telling you what kind of weapon you can have to defend yourself. What type of weapon you can use to defend yourself. I've always thought that was strange that the U.S. could impose sanctions like that against other nations. You're a nation, I'm a nation. Okay, you're a man, I'm a man. You might be bigger than me. You might even be stronger than me. But your heart ain't no fuller than mine. No matter how big you are, your heart ain't no bigger than mine. You dig what I'm saying, fam? So your willpower ain't no bigger than mine. Your spirit can't get no bigger than mine. On the physical side of things, okay, yeah, you might have an edge. But when you start talking about mentally and psychologically, and you start getting into the spirit, man, that's a whole different realm. That's a whole different ball game. These negotiations, I had previously said that they were 16 hours. They were actually 21 hours. I said 16 because that's what was first reported. But these talks lasted for 21 hours. And JD Vance and Jared Kushner, and who is Donald Trump's son-in-law, Steve Witkoff, they had to hop on a plane and go back to the U.S. with egg on their face because Iran said no deal. So Trump's response was, while he was tending a UFC fight in Miami during the final hours of the talk, he remarked that the outcome makes no difference to him. He said that because he got a heads up that the negotiations wasn't going too well. It didn't look like they was going to get that deal done. The two biggest contentions were nuclear weapons, Iran pursuing nuclear weapons, and opening the Strait of Hormuz. But Iran was like, okay, we'll open the Strait of Hormuz if you do this and you do that. The United States was not really willing to bend. Remember, when the United States was talking about what they wanted and what they wanted Iran to do if they wanted to stop the bombing and all this type of stuff. And then Iran said, we are ready. Come on, bring it. We ain't stopping nothing. You don't tell us when the war is over. We tell you when the war is over. Y'all started the war. You started the war. Trump is in a very sticky situation right now. And he got all of us in a sticky situation. Because, first of all, he's a lunatic. The dude is a maniac, okay? The dude is a maniac. A war is going on. There's a 2-week ceasefire. And there's global negotiations there's international negotiation to try to quell the violence, try to stop this stuff from advancing. And he steps up to the mic and says, well, it makes me no difference how it goes. If I'm a relative of anybody who's lost their life in the war so far, which I heard was grossly underreported, I'd be hot as hell, man. And I'd have to do something. I told y'all those U.S. casualties were grossly underreported, right? Now they're saying that there's been some reports that the number of U.S. casualties are in the hundreds, not 12, not teens, hundreds. Yeah, I knew it. You don't go to war and 12 people die. That's it. Nah, man. It's deeper than that. So they lied about that. What else they lied about? But we knew they was going to lie about that. We knew that before the war even started. We knew that they was going to lie about the casualties. We knew that. So just to be clear, fam, there's a current ceasefire. And so the breakdown of these talks has left this 2-week ceasefire in a precarious position with no clear indication from Vance of whether it will remain in place as the deadline approaches. For all we know, the bombs can start again tonight. I wouldn't bank on anything Trump says. I wouldn't bank on anything any U.S. leader says, because the United States are treaty breakers. They always break agreements. When they don't like something, they just tear up the agreement and keep it moving. If somebody else don't like something and they don't want to do it, they start talking about how horrible this person is and they are liars and they don't stick to their words and all this type of stuff. They start gaslighting them. I wouldn't trust any deal with the United States. So if they started bombing Iran in the middle of negotiations the first time before the war even started, and now that we have a ceasefire and negotiations have stalled, I mean, they didn't even try to spend the night and work on day 2. Vance and his team hopped on a plane back to the U.S. I don't know if they hopped on a plane back to the U.S. because they were scared to stay the night. Or if they just say, all right, man, you don't want to do it, all right, F it. You know what I'm saying? We gone. You know, let me see if I can get back to the U.S. in time for that UFC fight. Yeah. So Trump is hot because there is no deal, his bluff just got called. He sent JD Vance. You know what? I wish he'd have went himself, since why didn't he go himself? You know, he says it's the art of the deal. He talks about the art of the deal all the time. You know, the art of the deal. The book about him that he didn't write. Yeah, it's an autobiography. He says, well, I guess it's not autobiography, but he said he wrote the book. He said he wrote the book, but then the writer came out and said, no, he didn't write nothing. I had a bunch of conversations with him. I wrote the book. He just pretty much dictated. He's good at that, dictating. In any event, fam, we don't know what's about to happen because this dude is a nut job. He just said he don't care how it goes. You know, a lot of people have been hoping for his demise, hoping that his health actually, totally collapse. I don't know if you really want that to happen and him to have knowledge that it's happening, because he's the type that if he go down, he want everybody to go down. Yeah. Now, I'm also over here thinking like these guys have been manipulating the market, with these decisions that they have been making about the war and attacking these other countries and stuff. They have been, remember before, right, 2 days, I believe, before they attacked Iran, his son Barron put up $30 million in some oil stocks. So he made a grip. He probably turned that 30 million into, 300 million. So they're playing with the market. They're manipulating the market. It's a lot of insider trading going on right now. And who suffers, as always, the most? The American people. That's who suffers. Time and time and time and time again. Family, I've never been really impressed with any administration. I'm going to tell you straight up. It's the United States. KKK. I ain't never been impressed with none of these administrations, because at the end of the day, I understand that we're out here. We all are on our own. If you think Black people are the only ones on our own, you are sadly mistaken. We're all on our own. These people don't care nothing about you or me. When they start playing that race card, you might think that, oh, they're just doing that to the Blacks. But meanwhile, they clowning you. They doing you in another way. So they got us over here divided. We screaming, we tripping, we fighting over here, while they over here padding their pockets. They loading up on everybody. Black people ain't the only ones going through it right now. Most Americans are going through it right now. But let them tell it. Black people and the immigrants are the reason why you're having a hard time paying your bills. You're having a hard time paying your rent. You're having a hard time with those gas prices. Let them tell it. It's a cold game, man. But what say you, fam? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. How much longer y'all think JD Vance got before Trump out him all the way? I can guarantee you within the next 24 hours, Trump is going to throw JD Vance under the bus. No more talk.